What do you think your purpose is?
My purpose in life is just to help those around me and be my best. Help my children, help my wife, help my family, help my teammates, be better for my community. And the community is the world, you know?
What do you think it means to be a man?
I think embracing your responsibility is what it means to be a man. You know, embracing the suffering of this life.
Yeah.
And doing it with a smile on your face and being someone that can be dependent upon, being a pillar of strength for them and being a good child to God.
So you're fresh out of a fight, huh?
Yes, sir. Fresh out.
How do you feel right now?
Relieved. That's the main feeling I come to after every fight, win, lose, or draw. It's a big sense of relief and just the work paid off. I had a good performance and I get to be with my family again.
Yeah. So this is Kevin Pease. He just won his fight last night. He's undefeated. He's in the PFL, which is the organization. I would say it's like right under UFC, or it's like almost even with UFC in some senses.
Second biggest in the world.
Second biggest. I think Bellator just bought it. And you're undefeated. How many wins do you have now?
6 wins now.
6-0. That's crazy. How long have you been fighting for?
I like to say 10 years because I count my wrestling career. That was a fight in itself and highly competitive, and a lot of the skills I use in my fights I started acquiring when I was in high school. So about 10 years now. That's
crazy. So like when you're like walking into that octagon, like, what are you feeling?
It's different every time. Sometimes it's like, oh, I'm ready to smash this guy, rip his head off. Last night, it was very surreal.
Yeah.
It was kind of, you know, sometimes I have to wake myself up and I'm like, man, we're here. It's time to go. And then just, especially last night, because it was in my home state, so a lot of my friends and family were there, and they're buying front row tickets, and I can see them, and I got to just blur them out so I can focus on just getting the job done. And
yeah, you literally had Michael Chandler in your corner yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is dope. Crazy. Mike. Yeah, I saw him there yesterday. I was like, oh, shit, is that Michael Chandler? Like, I had to like get like 3 looks, actually. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
We locked eyes in the cage, and it gave me a boost for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. Yeah, I know what it's like to like have that adrenaline rush because I've competed on television too, where it's like you're walking on that, like all the lights, the announcers, and you just kind of like you have to like find your, I don't know, you have to become present in that moment, and it's sometimes it's hard, and hard. Like that adrenaline rush, it takes so much out of you so fast. So like when you get in there, like do you have cardio for days, or is it like, do you kind of like, is it like a lot different than training?
It's so different than training.
Yeah.
Because of, like you said, the production, the lights, everything. But my training at Killcliff FC is so hard, and I've always made sure I put myself in rooms throughout my whole career since high school wrestling that push me and make me better and that I struggle in. And Killcliff and Deerfield Beach is one of those environments with the best guys in the world from all over the world, Russia, America, Brazil, Africa. So we get pushed so hard in those rooms, and we have great coaches that guide us through those tough practices. So when you get into the fight under the lights and the production fades away and it turns into you and another man in a cage, it's just like training.
Just like another night.
Just, you know, you're taking way more chunks out of each other.
Who are some of the big heads that you you train with or compete with?
Michael Chandler, of course. He was the one that really recruited me to come to Killcliff, and you know, he really helped me in that aspect of my career. Gilbert Burns is another big name in the UFC.
Yeah, he's huge.
Those are probably the most name brand names I can.
How did you meet those guys in the first place?
Just so Michael is he's a Tennessee guy now, and he lives out here. And I went down to train with a friend of mine, Luis Pena, who was in the UFC at the time. And while I was training with him there, I met Michael. And we started moving around together, and we kind of had a good training relationship. And throughout, I would say, when he fought Justin Gaethje till Gaethje, Tony Ferguson, and Poirier, we worked a lot with each other for those camps. And he's such a veteran. There was so much knowledge I could take from him, and then I could give him looks that I feel like he needed, and it was just a great relationship. And he's helped me out with my management, and so it's been a priceless relationship.
What do you think that he saw in you to like work with you like one-on-one? You're probably like sparring against him, getting him ready for some of his fights.
Just the love of the sport, the dedication, because he knew I left my family to come to Kill Cliff to train and prepare. That I try to take care of my training partners. MMA is a brutal sport, and because there's so many sport backgrounds and cultural backgrounds, some guys don't necessarily care about taking care of their training partners or come from a culture like that. But in wrestling, it's, we beat each other up, but we also look out for each other, and he's cut from the same cloth. And he knows that, we fight in the cage on the night. That's what they pay us for, not to take chunks out on the way there. So
yeah, I feel like he came last night just for you.
For sure.
Which is kind of crazy.
We got another guy from our gym, Alexi.
Yeah.
He's from Nashville MMA.
Okay.
Bright stud, very good kid. So that was more incentive too, but I have no doubt I was a big reason, and I was very grateful to have him there. And it was awesome.
Yeah. So what has your journey been like to get to where you are with the PFL? I think you were in CFC, C. I don't know.
CFFC.
CFC. Okay. Yeah. So you were a wrestler. Where did this journey start for you? Take me all the way back.
It started in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where I'm from, born and raised. And I went to a prep school called Northfield Mount Herman. That's where I was introduced to the sport of wrestling. My uncles wrestled, but I'd never competed in it, or there wasn't a lot of options for it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so I got ingratiated with it there, and then I left that school and came back to Memphis, and I wrestled at St. Benedict my sophomore till my senior year.
Yeah.
And when I came back to Memphis, I was lucky enough to meet a man named Jeremy Bartley. And I was a pretty nonchalant wrestler. Like, I wanted to win, but I would eat pizza all the time. And I would just, if I lost, I'd be like, I would be upset, but I didn't really even know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And he really put a love for the sport in me, a competitive IQ. He made me study the game. He made me build my body and build my techniques. And that flame that he put in me is the flame that has carried me all the way through my MMA career.
That's crazy. So were you like, how good of a wrestler were you to start off?
To start off, I was not. I don't even think I was ever that good.
Really?
I didn't wrestle in college at all. I only wrestled. I got third at the state. I was
in high school.
In high school.
Okay.
I was a region champion.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing about it was I got so much better since the time we started working with each other to my senior year. I really saw that what I could do when I really loved something and could apply myself to it.
Yeah.
And that is what gave me the spark when a buddy of mine, Jaleel Willis, who fought last night as well, he saw me. I was probably about 200 pounds in college, partying every day. And he asked me to help with his wrestling, and he saw something in me, and he asked me to come to the fights that he was fighting at, and I saw it, and it just ignited my love for it. And I said, if I can apply myself the way I did in wrestling and make those jumps that I did then, I know I could be a good MMA fighter.
Why not? Why couldn't you be the champion of the world?
Absolutely.
That's crazy, bro. Did you go to college?
I did. I went to U of M for 2 or 3 semesters.
Okay, so you didn't really apply yourself. So it was basically high school, and then at what point did you take on MMA? We're like, all right, I'm gonna go for this.
About 2 or 3 semesters in, I probably found it, and I started training.
Yeah.
And after 7 months...
Was that the plan all along? Like when you were like wrestling in high school, where like, oh, I might do this MMA thing? Or was it kind of just like that wasn't even a thought?
No, my plan in high school was to be a state champion. And my school had never had one.
Yeah.
And I was low on the totem pole, even on my team. And my coach was Jeremy Bartley. He was living with me at the house at the time.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he goes, "What are your goals in wrestling?" And I said, making varsity would be pretty cool to start. And I guess being a regional champion would be very cool. And he said, "Why wouldn't you try to be the state champion?" And then I started thinking to myself, I was like, why wouldn't I try to be the state champion? But I didn't have that self-belief or image in myself that I could be that competitive. And he really just pushed me to like strive for those big goals and build myself into somebody that could be a contender. And I eventually was, and I got third. I was short of my goals, and kind of after that, I was so heartbroken because I put it on this pinnacle, and then when I lost it, I was devastated, and then there was no like athletic path for me. I didn't really want to go wrestle in college.
Right.
It just didn't, that passion to do that didn't really burn in me. But then when I saw MMA, I knew it was perfect for me. And
so when was that moment when you saw your MMA?
it was at Minglewood Hall, V3 fights. Jalil Willis was the main event. And actually, he asked me to come to the fights, but I didn't even.
So it was like live in person.
Live in person.
Okay, yeah, that's different, bro. Because I've seen it on TV all the time, but when I went and saw your fight in Mississippi for the first time, dude, it's so different. When you can hear those punches and you can see the lights, it's so different.
Hear the shots.
See,
like,
it's real. It's for real.
That they're just two guys in there competing against each other.
Yeah,
and so I didn't even make it to Jalil's fight because I got so inspired, and I was also drunk, and I was just like, man, fuck. I went out that night, and I was just like, I'm going to do this. But I was watching Jesse James Wallace and Ryan Collins fight, and I thought, man, these guys, they don't have they're high-level fighters, but I feel like I could out-wrestle these guys, and if I learned how to do all these other skills, I feel like I could compete on this level. And so once I saw that in person, I go, man, this is just like wrestling in some ways. And that's when I really started shooting for it and training every day, twice a day, and getting my weight off. And
you were in Memphis at this time?
I was in Memphis, yes.
And you went to Kill Clef right after that?
No, so I did a big chunk of my career with Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. That's my home gym in Memphis, Tennessee. My main coaches who were there throughout that process were Zach Underwood and Andy Urich.
Yeah.
And we started working, especially me and Zach Underwood, every day together, twice a day.
Gotcha.
And he was a good pro fighter and very experienced and kind of fought on all stages and knew all sides of the game. And he would push me every day. He was a very gritty fighter, and he would push me every day. And, I was able to win 5 championships as an amateur.
Damn.
And we just kept competing and going for title fights and testing ourselves and traveling around the country and getting different looks at different gyms before I was really down to commit to one place. And so I had a lot.
He was like your agent, so to speak.
Not my agent. He was just my coach. And we have a bond. Like, we have a real brotherly love for each other.
Yeah.
And he was just someone in the sport who did it, who I could confide in, because you need people in fighting who really love and care about you, because it's so brutal and it's so emotional. And, it's really sad to see guys who don't have that. I was lucky to. And, those guys are what gets you to the next level.
Of course. Yeah. At what point were you like, I might be able to take this professionally, and I might actually be able to like compete for a belt, whether it's like Bellator or UFC, PFL, whatever it is?
I've always just taken it one fight at a time.
Yeah.
And I just keep focusing on my love for the sport and trying to win the fight in front of me.
Yeah.
And all that stuff kind of takes care of itself. I didn't even know if I could fight before my first fight. And then I got a first-round TKO, and I was like, oh, man, I guess I can fight. Let me get another one. And then my second fight was so hard. It was traumatizing.
Damn.
because I was like, man, I've never gotten this tired. I've never felt this much pressure. And then immediately after the second fight I won, I was in a title fight with a guy who was 5-1. He was known for knocking out these pros in the area.
Yeah.
And he was more experienced. Dana White was actually there for that fight.
Crazy.
And I won my first belt there, and I just kept it rolling one by one till I got to this point.
How close are you to UFC? Do you want UFC? Is that the goal to win the UFC belt at 170?
My goal has always just to whatever organization I'm signed with, I want to be the champion of that. So if it's PFL, if it's CFFC, if it's UFC, I want to be the champion.
Right.
And just to get better every fight the best competition I can, and make good money to provide for my family and myself. So
this is literally your job.
Yes.
And you have one kid right now. You have another one coming.
Yes.
So this is literally your livelihood.
It's my profession for sure.
That's crazy.
And so I've always just pursued that. If UFC wants to pay me more money to come over there, I'd love to do it.
Sure.
PFL's taking great care of me right now, so I'm very happy here. But in this sport, things change so quick.
Yeah.
And, UFC's right there. PFL is right there. I literally just fought for them last night, and we have more options with them. So everything's up in the air right now, but I kind of like it that way because it keeps me excited, keeps me motivated for the next big moment.
Do you think wrestling is the number one skill that you need when it comes to MMA?
Wrestling is like the way the sport is. It's encompasses so many things that are important for MMA. The discipline, what your body goes through in an MMA fight with the grappling and the up down,
making weight,
footwork, clinching, top game, bottom game, the grind of the tournament style. Wrestling is super competitive, so competing against other tough guys who want to win and want to take it from you just as bad.
Of course,
it's a perfect fit for MMA more so than I believe karate or something like that.
Yeah. What are the guys that you think have the most success in MMA? Are they wrestlers? Are they people that just do all around? Are they jiu-jitsu experts? Is it kind of all over the place right now?
I think it's all over the place. And it's really, to me, what makes MMA beautiful.
Yeah, true.
There's so many different types of fighters. There's so many different types of people, for one, with different athletic ability and different skill sets. And it's very cool to see a guy like Israel Adesanya, a 6'3" guy from Nigeria who lives in New Zealand, who's trained there, and he's got this great kickboxing background.
Yeah.
He's one of the best ever.
Of course.
And then you have a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's from Russia and has trained in combat sambo, which is like a police self-defense system Russia designed, and the Russian people compete in it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it encompasses a lot of parts of MMA. And then he's got this totally complete different style with the ground and pound. But they're both just as dominant, and they're both, inspire people in different ways. So that's my favorite part about it. Everyone kind of gets to show who they are and how they view, what they think fighting should be.
Yeah. Who's your favorite fighter?
I would probably say Khabib Nurmagomedov or Daniel Cormier.
Daniel, okay. Interesting. Why is that?
I always loved Khabib. I would always love him because of his dominance and his work ethic and his dedication to his religion and his dedication to his team. And, I just never seen a guy dominate an entire division the way he did without, I don't think he ever bled in the cage, which last night I was bleeding all over the place. So it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And then I love Daniel because, we both come from the South. We both come from that wrestling background. And he's got this pudgy body on the outside, but he's a freak athlete. And he dominates these guys who tower above him and are bigger, and he uses grit and determination, and he just grinds them all out. So I always love those guys.
Yeah. What are you thinking when you go to the cage and like when you're in the cage? Like, what are you doing it for? Right, because that's like your reason why is like a huge thing, and it's almost like your reason why against your opponent's reason why. I mean, don't get me wrong, it comes down to skill, but like that reason why is like the ultimate driving force. I
really feel when I get in there, it's my destiny. I really feel, all the amazing people I've met on my journey from wrestling to fighting that I wouldn't know my wife if I didn't do MMA. I wouldn't know, the coaches who know my children and know my mother and are so integral in my life. I would have none of these relationships without the sport. And the man that the sport forces me to be, to compete in it and try to be the best at it, it's the kind of discipline I've always needed in my life. And every time I get ready for one of these things and do it and complete it, a better Kevin comes out, and I learn more about myself, and just the experience itself has just always been priceless to me. Getting to learn about other people, my opponents, getting to battle another man who's got his dreams and his family and his own things that make him unique, and us testing each other in the cage or on the mat. There's nothing else like it, and
it's the realest thing you could possibly do.
It's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real.
What are some of the biggest demons that you fight when you go into that cage?
Just the self-doubt, You could get knocked out in front of your mother and everybody else and be completely humiliated and just fail flat on your face for the world to see. And, that's part of why the glory is so high, but the lows are so low. And, just the self-doubt, not performing your best, quitting on yourself in there, which is always an option. The whole fight, you can quit on yourself. Just battling that back. And
how tired do you get when you're in there? I mean, it's 15 minutes, and people, they can run for 15 minutes, but fighting is so different, bro. Like that adrenaline rush. Like you're throwing everything you got in some of these punches, in the takedowns or defending the takedowns, whatever it is. Like, how much does that take out of you?
It takes a lot. Different fights, like kind of wear on you differently.
Yeah.
Like the fight I was in last night with Nick Meck.
Big guy.
It was big guy, great wrestler.
Yeah.
Very strong, very powerful, and bigger than me for sure. And that was a more grueling fight just because he was so competent in all the areas where usually I can dominate and catch myself a little bit, but we had to battle it out in the wrestling scrambles all night, and then on the feet we had to strike hard, and so that was particularly grueling. Sometimes when you fight a guy who's not as versed in that, who's more of a striker, it's a little easier because you can just get him on a wrestling pace and get his muscles working in a way that he's not used to doing for years. And you can really wear him out, and it's an easier night for you. So it all depends, but in general, it's just exhausting just being in the moment, and you've trained for weeks to peak at this time and perform at this time, and then you have whatever pressures from your family or friends on the outside and the pressures you put on yourself for your dreams, and you have all these rounds and training sessions that you do, but it only matters how you do it for 15 minutes that one night.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. How about the weight cut? First of all, what do you walk around at?
I fluctuate all the time. So probably at my heaviest, I walk around like 191.
191.
This camp, I brought it down a lot, and I was probably walking around 181.
Okay, and you fight at 170 welterweight.
170.
Have you always fought at that?
I fought at 155 for a while.
Okay.
And I had to walk around at 176 to make that. And
that's tough for you.
It was tough. It's just not where I wanted to put my energy at the time. you have to live a very disciplined life. You have to add a lot more training sessions in. And to me, it felt like my life was becoming more about making a weight than it was about being a better fighter.
Yeah.
And I moved up to 170. I'm a small 170 by most people's standards, but all my energy goes into being the best fighter, developing my skills, making sure I can train as hard as I can that day, refuel, and train hard again. And just keep my body healthy and feeling good and my brain hydrated.
Do you think if you were to fight for the UFC belt right now, you think it would be a 170 or 155?
I wouldn't mind fighting for either one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not opposed to going to 55 when the opportunities are getting better for me than they were. I don't need the fight. I don't need to fight to stay alive per se.
Yeah.
I'm a taken care of individual, and my personal life is good in that sense. But I have the opportunity to fight at either weight class, and
True.
right now I just like the fit for 170, and but I would never put 55 off the table, and you know, it just got to make sense for me. I really look at my fights as, what does this fight mean to me? Does it get me up in the morning? Does this opponent make me, do I think about him at night, and does he make me want to get up and run the extra miles or do the rounds and fly to Florida to leave my family to lock in to defeat him? And when I have opportunities like that, that's what gets me going and gives me the drive I want.
Yeah. Going back to the weight cut, what is that like? Because, you know, I'm just imagining you're in this, like, you're this sauna suit, you're in a sauna, or you're taking baths, whatever it is. You're just trying to drop a bunch of water right before you go on to compete.
Yeah.
And just drown yourself out and tire yourself out against an opponent that's heavier than you, whatever it is. How does that feel?
It's like walking through a desert before you get in a fight.
Yeah.
And my strategy is, like, it's hard fighting the big guys. It's hard fighting the guys with the power and the strength.
Yeah.
But they usually have to walk a harder desert than I do.
True.
And at this point in my career, that sounds like a worse bet than me, who I still got to walk through a desert, but it's not as bad, and I feel good year round. And I'm just focusing on being the best Kevin Pease instead of being a bigger monster that can just beat you because my attributes are, you know, more fitting.
That's true. And what exactly do you do for that weight cut?
So you have to diet down to a certain weight to even hit the weight you want to do when you compete.
So you walk around at 191 at the heaviest. What do you have to diet down to?
I like to be in camp at like 185.
185, so you got 15 pounds to cut water.
And that's a nice, easy cut.
That's not that bad.
It still sucks because, you know, if you like food like I do, I'm from the South, you know, you don't get as many, you know, bacon and eggs, you know, you don't get your burgers or anything like that.
Yeah.
But when you're getting ready for that kind of situation in the cage, you know, it kind of makes you dial in, and you don't even want all those things as badly because you just want to win. And so you want to give your body whatever feels the best to make it work on that night.
So when do you start that weight cut? Is it like 3 days before, and you're just dropping water weight until that weigh-in?
Yeah, so you start 7 days out before the fight.
7 days out, okay. So are you doing that like that? You drink a gallon, and then you're drinking like 2 gallons, and you're dropping that water weight somehow with like water manipulation.
So throughout the camp, you want to be drinking 2 gallons every day.
Then you cut it down to 1?
And then say the day before weigh-ins, this is how I always track it. The day before weigh-ins, you drink half a gallon.
Okay.
2 days before, you drink a gallon. 3 days, 1.5.
Yep.
And then the day before that, you're still doing 2. So, and then the last day before weigh-ins, you kind of take everything out, flush your body completely, and weigh in.
Are you doing sauna? How are you cutting that water weight?
All sorts of stuff: running, sauna, drilling. Sweet sweat is awesome. It's just stuff you can rub on your body, and it opens your pores, and you start pouring way easier. Baths. You know, everyone's different. Everyone has like a different type of heat tolerance that they like. I don't have to cut too much, so I've always just kind of bounced around with what I do.
Yeah, when you step on that scale, what do you feel like?
Relief too. You're like, man, I can eat some, or really, you don't even care about.
Yeah, but
food.
are you like just like drawn out, like you can't even think straight, like so dehydrated, like I just want water so bad, or is it like it's not that bad?
When you cut a lot, you really want a lot of water. This time wasn't so bad because I was under, so I was able to drink up a little bit before I even got on the scale.
Okay.
But when I made 55, all you want is like a drop of water in your mouth, and it's pretty miserable.
Yeah, I can only imagine, bro. And what's training camp like? And like, how does that work? How many weeks is training camp? And what does that involve?
Training camp is very hard. I usually leave my family for the entire camp just to get my mind in the right spot and completely focus. It's hard to do.
How long is that?
It depends on when your fight is. So this one was 3 weeks, which is way shorter than I like to do it. I love like at least 5 weeks. I feel way better, but
so a month, give or take.
Yeah, six to 8 is the best.
Okay,
but I can do good with 5. But this time it was 3.
Damn.
And you just have to encompass all the main aspects of MMA: grappling, wrestling, sparring, where you mix everything together, punching, kicking, knees, elbows, movement, footwork, and lots of live goes with the best partners you can get, which is why I go to Kill Cliff, because we got the best room in the world. And
who are some of the people in that room?
Michael Chandler, Gilbert Burns. This camp I worked with my buddy Muhammad from Russia, Nikita, Sydney Outlaw, Logan Storley, Richie Lewis.
Yeah, some of the biggest names.
And just high-level fighters from, all these high-level fighters come from everywhere in the U.S. and the world, and we all kind of meet at this place and
it's crazy.
Push each other. Yes, Deerfield Beach. And then you have to get good coaching, too, to guide you through the different obstacles that your opponent might face or this particular fight might present, whether it's like, oh, we're fighting in Abu Dhabi or we're fighting in North Dakota so you need good guidance and good coaching to help you get through that as well.
Yeah. And you said training camp is like 3 at the minimum, 8 weeks at the max. And like, what are you doing inside that training camp? I know you say grappling, like wrestling, all that kind of stuff. Is there anything specific?
Lots of live rounds. So, however long you want to train, usually at the minimum we train 5x5 rounds. So 5 rounds, 5 times, and sometimes 8, 10 rounds more than that.
And how hard are you going in those rounds?
Hard. You're going hard. You're pushing it because you're trying to simulate that fight pace.
Like a real fight. But are you taking a little bit off your punches or not? Or not really?
No. Sometimes maybe.
Yeah.
Usually at home, maybe, because I'm playing around more.
Yeah.
The skill level of guys isn't as high.
Are you wearing headgear and shin guards?
To each his own. I wear all the protective gear, Vaseline, because I really want to ensure that I get to the fight. But at Kill Cliff, it's an intense room. Everyone's going at it. Everyone wants to win the rounds. Yeah. And everyone wants to push each other because everybody's got a big fight coming up. So if I give my training partner a bad round, that might hurt him in his fight, and it might hurt me. So we're pushing each other every morning at 10 o'clock. And then in the evenings, we either do strength and conditioning or we do drill sessions working on skills. And it's... I don't want to say relax, but it just doesn't have the same intensity,
Yeah.
And it's repetitive. You do that day in, day out, till your fight comes.
Yeah. Is your training, is it just fighting, grappling, wrestling, or is there like weightlifting? Is there HIIT training, cardio sessions, running?
There is those things. I need to start implementing more strength training. I really felt in this fight with how strong my opponent was.
Yeah.
But I've always focused on developing skills and being in shape and doing a lot of live rounds. I believe like wrestling is one of the best strength and conditioning programs you can do.
Sure.
I'm going to start implementing more, but I feel like there's nothing like simulating the actual activity that you're going to do.
Definitely.
So if I'm playing basketball, like I need to run and lift, of course, but I'm going to focus on playing basketball as much as I can.
Yeah. What kind of toll does this take on your family? Is it your wife or your girlfriend?
Yeah, my wife.
Your wife, your kids. What kind of toll does it take on them?
It's a big toll because it takes me away from them. You know, they don't have me at night. They don't have me throughout the day.
Yeah.
They don't have my support that I bring or my energy or even just my presence with them and helping them through their lives. So my wife's an extremely strong woman, and she really holds it down. And her parents and her siblings and my mother and they all they help me out major because they know this is my path, and they help my son out and support him, and he's very well taken care of. And I try to stay away from them the least amount of time as I can, but then I have to give this sport everything I can as well, because if you don't, it's no bueno.
Yeah. Where do you see all this going? What's the dream?
I feel like I'm living my dream. You know, like I said, I want to compete at a high level. I want to fight good guys. I want to make good money, and I want to do it on a world stage. And I'm doing all those things right now.
Yeah.
I take every fight like it could be my last fight, because one injury, one bad fight, you don't know if you're ever going to be able to do it again. So I really try to take things day by day and not look too crazy ahead, because you never know what's going to happen. And
True.
I believe you're all on God's plan. You know, I've thought so many things like, oh, I want this fight, or I want this specific opportunity, or I deserve this. And then he takes it somewhere else completely different. And it really is better off for me in the end. But at the time, I don't see it. So
what is, when you say God, what does that mean to you? Like, who is God?
Just the higher power that guides the world we live in, that dictates everything around us.
Yeah.
I believe he's in all of us. He's in everything. And I believe nothing in this life is a mistake or an accident. And I believe we're all on our journeys in the end to bring us closer to him. Even if, for instance, we don't understand, we could look at somebody and go, how is their journey leading them to God? I believe we're all on our separate journeys leading us to him in the end.
When did that journey start for you? Was God always in the picture, or did he come in at a certain point in a certain moment?
Of course, he's always been there, you know?
Yeah.
Whether I see it or not, his presence has always been there. My mother is a very spiritual woman, and she's always put God at the top for us. And but then as you mature and you have more responsibilities and you have children and you have a wife and you do something as intense as fighting, you know, it puts you in a place where you need something way greater than yourself to help you. And for me, like, that's always been what's drawn me closer. Responsibility and hardship has always made me go closer to him. Yeah. And it's also always made me a better person too.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way to him, is the hard route. The easy route is, you're not going to get closer to God by the easy route.
And there's nothing fun about the easy route either. No. You know, there's nothing worthy of it, or, you know.
Exactly. Do you like, are you under a certain religion, or are you kind of out there, like universe? Are you Christian? Are you Muslim? Where are you?
I definitely feel like more Christian based because my family is Christian based. Yeah. But I have a lot of Muslim friends and Muslim coaches and mentors in my life. A lot of great Christian mentors in my life. Yeah. I lean toward the Christianity. I lean toward Jesus because he's so inspiring to me, and his journey is so inspiring. And but I see the beauty in all true spirituality and all true connection with a higher power.
Yeah.
You know, I think we have all these different ways of getting to God, but as long as we're getting to God, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. How much does that mean to you in the octagon? Like, does that play a toll at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that allows you to, or allows me to handle the moment. You know, trusting that God wants me there to be my best self. He wants me there to, just like I would see certain athletes that I look up to and they inspired me to be a better version of myself, or to push myself harder than I maybe would have if I hadn't seen it. I believe I do the same thing in whatever capacity it's in.
Yep.
And I believe the battles that I have in the cage, he wants me to endure those to see who I am on the other side of them, and who I am in pursuit of them as well.
Do you, when you walk into that cage, do you surrender it to God?
100%. I surrender it the whole way through. Through the sparring sessions that you can get hurt in those.
Yeah.
Through the hard nights when you're away from your family. I completely surrender to God, and I completely trust his plan. And I make mistakes and I fail, but I always just focus on trying to have his will in my heart and trying to pursue that.
Yeah.
And do my best en route to that.
Yeah, I love how you said his will. I was just my friend, he just made a post. He runs like ultra marathons, 100-mile races, stuff like that. And he's like, honestly, dude, I'm just like a passenger at the end of the day. Like, it's just like, I'm just like kind of like watching and just kind of like seeing like what my conscience does. It's like kind of crazy. You know, like I'm just a passenger in this body, and I'm letting God take me for the road, for the ride.
I love that analogy. I always feel like we're painting something together.
Yeah.
You know, I always feel like I feel a strong sense of myself. And then when I combine that with what I believe to be his will, I believe that's when I get the best product in anything I do in my life.
Yeah.
So I try to stay as connected with him through journaling and praying and being thoughtful and listening to people who I believe are have that same spirit in them as well.
The truth.
And the truth, 100%. And I try to lead my family by that example and impact those around me with that same kind of spirit, because I believe that's best for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, kind of going deeper into that, like outside of fighting, what are some of the things that you can do to separate yourself from the competition? Kind of some of the things that you just said, like journaling, probably praying, stuff like that. Is there anything else that you do to kind of separate yourself?
Just being with my loved ones, man.
Yeah.
Being with my wife, being with my children, being with my family.
It's the biggest motivation.
They're the biggest motivation, but they also make me realize, like, you know, fighting doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
If I had to lose one of them, that would be really devastating. So it just reminds me to, even though fighting's brutal, just keep enjoying it and keep having fun with it the way I believe it was meant to be. Because even though it's super brutal, it's a game at the end of the day. It's competition.
Yeah.
And it's there for entertainment and, you know, family and your neighbors and your community. That's what matters more than anything else.
Yeah.
So getting connected with them, that's where I spend, if I'm not worrying about fighting, that's where I spend all my time.
So we were connected by Giovanni.
Yes.
How did you get involved with Gio? And Gio, he's who is Gio? How would you explain Gio? He's kind of, I guess he's kind of like a life coach.
He's a wizard. He's like Gandalf.
Yeah, he's got a lot of wisdom behind him. He coaches in this program called Undefeated Mastery, where people kind of overcome all the trauma, all the pain that they've been through in life, and he just helps you bring it to light.
100%.
So how do you meet him?
So I was training. My first loss in MMA was to a guy named Ashton Kirby, and a couple years after that, I reached out to him because I competed against another guy on his team, and I saw his team. They all just had like a good set of skills.
Yeah.
They were close in the area. So I really wanted to pick their brains and see like what they were doing, how they were training, and through them I met Nathan Kirby, who was my coach for my first professional pro fight and my last amateur title fight, and my friend for life though.
Yeah.
And we have a very strong connection, and he believed that going to the Undefeated Mastery program would really help me and help my life and make me grow as a man. And I trusted him, and I did the program. And through that program, I met Gio. And Gio's just a one-of-a-kind individual. He's very loving, very charismatic. He's got the eye of the tiger in him, I like to say.
Hell yeah.
And he likes to help people.
Yeah. He's also not afraid to give tough love.
No, and I love tough love.
Absolutely.
And he just always pushed me to be my best self out of the cage, just in my life for my loved ones around me. And that's something I always try to do, not just be the best fighter I can be, but be the best human I can be. And from the moment I met Gio, he was always trying to push me in that direction.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool. And he loves seeing the kind of person that you are after you come out of things like that, after you come out of pushing yourself to be better. And I feel I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So we connected over that. We've gone hunting with each other numerous times and done numerous Undisputed Masteries, and just really formed a great relationship over these last years. And I met you guys through him, and I always say, like, anybody cool with Gio is cool with me. And so he's been a great blessing in my life.
Yeah.
Great friend.
Yeah, he's a brother for life, that's for sure. Yeah. How is that Undisputed Mastery? How has that helped you? What did you overcome through that?
It just really let go a lot of baggage and trauma I had in my life, that things I could control, things I couldn't control, and kind of realize the difference between both. Connect with different aspects of myself to make myself in the present better, like connect with the inner child in myself, connect with who I could be in the future, so that every day I can give a better product to those around me.
Yeah.
And it's an intense, it's like a little training camp in a couple of days. It's very intense.
A mental, emotional training camp.
100%. And they exhaust you, and they push you to the brink, and they inspire you, and they make you pull yourself from the fire, you know? And I went, before my professional debut was the first time I probably went, and it changed my life. And so I've always just kept going back.
I love that, man. Yeah, how would you kind of explain that process to someone? Like, well, actually, would you recommend it to a lot of these fighters? Because I feel like a lot of the fighters, they kind of feel like, oh, I'm already tough. I already got it figured out. I already know how to push myself. But you're a fighter, you're a professional fighter, and you continue to show up to those events to like better yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. But I feel like a lot of fighters are like, nah, I got to figure it out.
I would recommend it to anybody who's open enough to seeking help to get better as a man. So everybody doesn't want to seek help to get better as a man. Everybody doesn't think they need help. And that's for them and their journey. But any man that I think is like really searching to find a better version of himself And wants help with that, I always recommend Undisputed Mastery for him and tell Gio about him.
I love that. If you could call one fighter out on the entire planet, who would it be? Like if you could, like that's your fight.
To fight, like get it signed and fight him?
Yeah. UFC, PFL, whatever it is.
I would call it Bilal Muhammad because he's the champion.
Damn.
You know, he's I've actually got to train with Bilal years ago.
Oh, really?
Good man. Very great, well-rounded fighter, great athlete.
Yeah.
But I would fight him because he's got the highest trophy in my weight class, which is the UFC welterweight championship. So I would fight him.
You think you could do it right now?
Maybe not right this second, but give me a training camp, and I believe I can go against anybody.
So 8-week training camp, you think you got him?
Oh, yeah. Anybody after 8 weeks, for sure.
Damn. I love that. Here's a deeper question. What do you think your purpose is?
My purpose is just to help those around me and be my best. Help my children, help my wife, help my family, help my teammates.
Yep.
Bring the best out of my opponents and vice versa. Be a good student to my coaches, and then when I coach people, be a good leader for them. I just feel like my purpose in life is just to be better for my community, and the community is the world, you know?
What do you think it means to be a man? You know, boy, man, what do you think it means to be a man, a leader, someone who leads their household, provides, all that?
I think embracing your responsibility is what it means to be a man. Carrying your cross, so to speak. You know, embracing the suffering of this life.
Yeah.
And doing it with a smile on your face, and helping those around you with theirs as well. And being someone that can be depended upon.
Yep.
Whether it's your friends or family, just being a pillar of strength for them, and being a good child to God, you know, and His will.
I love that. So, say if you had to take fighting completely out of the picture, what would you do?
I can't train either.
Let's say you can never step in the cage again and fight for money.
I would compete. I would help guys out at my gym.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't compete actually, but I would train every day.
So you become a coach.
I would coach guys for sure, and
yeah.
Help them out with their journeys through it as much as I could. Still be a father to my kids.
Yeah.
Get way more involved with my family business.
You have a family business?
We do. My mom owns a company called Well Child.
Okay.
And they go into schools and give physicals to the kids in the inner cities.
Oh, cool.
And in rural areas too.
Yeah.
But I love that mission that she has, and she's always, you know, stressed the importance of having a mission that helps other people. So I would, and I'm currently working on getting more involved with that as well. So I would just go deeper into that, and that would just be my new passion. And
I love it. You got Chandler or McGregor?
Of course, Chandler, brother. You know, McGregor's on Lamborghini yachts and getting drunk and not showing up. So
yeah,
which all props to him. He's earned it. You know, if
sure.
I don't, you know, I would never tell someone with that much money to get back in the cage, and accomplishments. You know, he's done it all. He doesn't need this sport anymore.
No.
But Chandler all day.
Who's the GOAT of MMA? UFC, whatever it is. Like, who would you put number one?
I really think the GOAT conversations are opinionated. You know, it's all what you value in MMA.
Yeah.
Like, I think skill-wise, mighty Demetrius Johnson is the GOAT.
Dang. Okay.
Career-wise,
yeah, he's all around.
I think Khabib is the GOAT, in my opinion. You know, his dominance in that is what I value. With no, you know, some people would say John Jones.
Yep.
But the dirty test kind of ruined it for me a little bit. And also, like, the outside of the cage issues can ruin it for me, too.
Sure.
I believe, you know, being the best is also about setting the best example you can set. And I know I feel John does his best, but I also feel like he could do better too.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think about like the whole like Jake Paul situation with like boxing MMA fighters and kind of creating like that big propaganda? What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with it? Do you think Jake Paul is a good fighter and he's just kind of doing what Conor did?
No, he's doing his own thing. I think he's living his dream. I think he wants to be a fighter, and he's got all the money and support and means to do that. And he's really built like a great career for himself, fighting old MMA guys and putting it on big stages with great production. And
so you respect him?
Yeah, I respect him because he's paid his own way.
You think he's a good boxer?
For where he started, I do.
Yeah,
for sure. For you know, being an influencer to where he's at now, I would say he's a good boxer.
Do you think he has a shot in MMA? Because I know he wants to make the transfer to PFL, actually.
It depends upon who his opponent is.
Yeah. Say is it Nate Diaz?
Nate Diaz?
Yeah. Think he could beat you?
Jake Paul?
Yeah.
Well, with all the gorilla juice he's on, you know, who knows?
Yeah, he's pretty big right now.
He's a light heavyweight, so
yeah.
But I don't know. I'd have to see who he fights and what the matchup is. Usually, he picks favorable ones for himself.
Yeah,
but he's running the show, so he can do that. And,
true.
But yeah, I don't think against the upper echelon of MMA at his weight. No. But he's doing good for himself, living the dream. So
for sure. So here's a super deep question. Say if these were your very last words to your family, to your fellow fighters, training partners, all your friends, what would your last message be? Say if you're on your deathbed right now, what would the last words be of Kevin Pease?
I did my best.
I love it. I love it, bro. Cool. You want to shout yourself out as far as social media, where people can find you, if you have any sponsors, whatever it is.
Yeah, shout out to Raw Farms. They got the best raw milk and cheese in the game. Shout out to Desi Saturdays and those boys out there.
Yeah.
And then you can follow me at Sweat Pea MMA on Instagram. And just thank you, Zach, for the opportunity and the time. And
yes, sir.
It's a late night one last minute. Yeah, but it was fun.
It's like midnight right now. But yeah, hell yeah, bro. Anything else you want to say?
God bless everybody.
Yeah, brother. God bless. It's been great.
Yes,
congratulations, brother.
Thank you, brother.
It's been real.
Good seeing you.
Peace, guys.